Blessings and welcome. Blessings and welcome. Let's get on to Instagram land here and we will get set up for this beautiful morning together. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to live where I live in this beautiful Coachella Valley desert. It is just an amazing morning out here. Um, Couch is a little befuddled this morning, but it is what it is, right? It is just so gorgeous outside. The birds are singing, and it's just such a gift to spend time outside and meditate and breathe and do pranayama and be in the world and at the same time not of it. If you know what I mean. I did a post on my personal page this morning. Uh, uh, I like to practice as much as I can the qigong, little qigong, tai chi, pranayama, different breathing exercises outdoors, facing the sun and really generating, right, life force energy, tuning into life force energy, and creating the correct conditions in my own body mind vehicle so that I can be and embody more of that life force energy. And it is just such a beautiful space and a place that we can come into and to take time in nature, to take time to really be in the presence of the sound of the birds, the sound of the wind, of the feel of it right over your skin. If you can take your shoes off and just really get that sense of connecting, of grounding with Mother Earth. And she just has so much divine wisdom and so many gifts of healing to bestow to us. So I'm so very grateful because I finally got sleep. I don't know about you, but my sleep patterns have been variable over for a long time now. But really in the last, then you get back into a groove where you're like, oh my god, okay, I got like 6 or 7 hours of sleep, this is amazing. And then it gets disrupted again, and then you come back and you have like a night where you get a full 6 hours, and it's like, yes. So I'm really grateful. I feel chock full of juice and energy, and I'm so very grateful as always for this dear community here. And this topic today is a big one, and it feels like it's a big one to me. I know for me in my life, drugs and addiction have been a very natural part of my path, have been a very natural part of, in the 3D, what we might term as saying as the gifts that I've been bestowed through my genetics, right? But we're learning that we don't have to be a victim to our genetics, a victim to maybe those addictions, those habits, those patterns that we've received from our family, through our blood, through our DNA. But this has been an ongoing dance for me, and I wonder if it has been the same for you, whether it has been literally a drug, meaning, pot. A lot of people say that pot is not addictive. Well, in my experience, I have been and felt and experienced the addictive nature of being in a romance, in a dance, and really being a slave to that high myself. And it's different for all of us, right? Whatever dimension we feel with these different aspects. So again, we can think about pot, we can think about, cocaine, crystal meth, the list goes on, right? In terms of those third dimensional accessible drugs that are in the circles, Vicodin, speed, just all the list goes on. Um, and it's interesting though, because we can brush the stroke out beyond the edges and maybe talk a little bit about mushrooms, about ayahuasca and such. Yet it feels that their medicine is so, in my experience, in tune with Mother Earth, again, coming back to the earth, so in tune with the grounding principle of truth, um, that I know for me and for other friends, I won't speak for everyone, but that as it's been guided to be with those modalities, really, those ceremonies, it has been as a means to sort of check in with where I'm experiencing, perhaps not all the time, but in the past, I have used those ceremonial aspects to check in with where I'm at in addiction, in a third dimensional level of my existence, and really ask spirit to offer the strength, the wisdom, the insight, so that I could see what I wasn't seeing about my patterns, and then from the information gathered, move forward. Now, as well, right, as well as drugs, pot and marijuana, right? Like they're two separate things. Cocaine, crystal meth, as we were saying, Vicodin, speed, all those things, crystal meth. That there's food, there is sugar, there is caffeine, right? There's all of these other different aspects in the third dimension. And there's another thing. Again, I don't know about you. Thank you for saying hi, everyone, and hopping on Instagram land. And thank you, everyone, here at YouTube. I will come back and check in with the comments here in a moment. I just want to get this initial first part run, get the energy run, and then we'll check in, because I definitely am open to this being a conversation. But I know for me as a child that with the experiences I had as a youth, I didn't know it, but I used food as a means to stuff down my emotions, so that I didn't have to really digest what I was really feeling. If you read my book, The Reiki Apprentice, it's all in here. The things that happen to us as a youth, they mark us, they mark our timelines. And unless we come to terms and heal consciously, really heal these aspects of self, and make peace and forgive, and release the grievances, those addictions, right, that start with us as a youth will continue, and they'll just become a part of our lives, and we won't even it'll just become us, right? We won't even think about it, and that's okay, right? There's no right or wrong. We're just having a conversation, that so we can see things, maybe turn the crystal of the conversation around in different ways, so we can start to see different angles of maybe a common thread that we all have together in different ways. So I know for me, the food thing, and my whole life, it was up and down, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight. And my go-to then would be, any emotional thing would be to eat, 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 eat. And if I didn't have food, but I had pot, then it'd be smoke, 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 smoke. And then later in life, again, if you've been following me for years, you know that there was a point in my life back in 2015 where my ex-fiance attempted suicide, and it was probably the biggest life crisis that I'd ever experienced in my whole life. And it drove me to drink, and I started drinking wine like every day, and it just became a thing. And a lot of people drink wine, right? I even grew up in Europe, and that's like normal to drink a glass or two of wine every day. It's supposed to be good for you, red wine, all this stuff. But I wasn't drinking to say cheers or sláinte or like here's to my health. I was drinking to fucking numb the immense pain that I was experiencing in my heart and in my consciousness. Like every part of my being was having a crisis breakdown. And that helped me to sort of numb out, to chill out. And I was broke back then too, so it was like the real cheap stuff. But what happened is that addiction, that became an addiction, right? That initial, like, I need a drink, oh my god, I'm going through this huge life thing, that initial thing that I was using to just like help me calm, then became a part of my life, and I was unconscious of it. Now, I'm a Reiki master for 20 years, a yoga teacher, blah blah, spiritual author, speaker, all this stuff. Look, we're all human, and we all have these things, right? We don't know what each other are going through in each other's lives. We don't know the crisis, the pain, the trauma, the unhealed stuff from our past. But that was me, is that I drank then every single day for 3 years. On this show, 4D Trinity, if you go back and you watch from the beginning ones till about the 30 or 40th show, I'm still hungover, like sometimes even still drunk from the night before. It's pretty trippy, right? When I go back and I look, and I'm like, whoa, shit. But you see, but this is it. Sometimes with our addictions, we can fake it, or we're just natural, right? It's that, what is that term where you are a something alcoholic, where you can show up on time, you can get up, you can take a shower, you can, do your work, you can hit all your goals, you can go home, and you start drinking again. It's like, that was me. Like, I was completely able to wake up and show up and be on, and meanwhile, there was this broken heart inside of me that I was drinking to tend to. And it took me 3 years till I completed that cycle. Addiction, okay? Cigarettes. What's up with cigarettes? And these vapes and stuff, being really mindful. And I've said it before to the community, Because I smoke. Again, if you read my book or you've been following me for a long time, I talk very openly how from really, really a young age, I began a relationship with tobacco, smoking tobacco, and with marijuana. And then when I moved to Ireland, I lived in Europe, in Ireland, for 10 years. From when I was 14 to 24, everybody smokes like a freaking trooper out there and drinks. But it's a social thing, it's a way of life, right? And so here I am. I have the okay then to just puff, 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 smoke, 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 packs, 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 drink, 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 but it was the way of life. So it was fine. But over the years, again, being this yoga teacher, this Reiki facilitator, all this stuff, and really learning about ascension in my own body mind continuum on a multidimensional level, metaphysically, like what the fuck's going on, and realizing that my body, my spirit was constantly like knocking at the door and inviting me to embody a greater balance, higher self. As I developed the conversation and the ability to really tune in and hear higher self, the voice for God, the voice for love, that divine Jiminy Cricket that's always kind of nudging you, not kind of, but that is saying, hey, go this way. This is the correct path for you, for your highest good in this situation. But that voice, that Jiminy Cricket, or that voice for God, that higher self, that light body, reverberation, that frequency of knowing gets very bemuddled for me, right? It had gotten very bemuddled from all the smoke and mirrors, from all the puff puff, whether it's weed or the tobacco, the wine, all the little chakras, right? All the main 7 chakras and all the infinite other chakras, never mind the nadis, the energy channels of the body, they become clogged up with the remnants of this stuff. And so again, right, we have this funny saying in the spiritual community, like, oh, let's detox to retox, right? There's this awareness, even if you love your wine or you love your this and your that, or you smoke your weed, but still you'll be like, oh, I'm going to go on a juice fast for a week because I need to like tune up and cleanse up and get my frequency right. And then like, I'll join you for drinks, in a couple of weeks, but I'm going to just be like chill right now. Right. So there's this like conversation going on where we're realizing it's one thing to enjoy, right, in moderation, all these gifts of celebration, we can call them. Yet it's another thing when spirit is talking to you, spirit is whispering to you, when your higher self is saying like, hey, and that's how it happened for me. Higher self came in and said, hey kid, I was halfway through a bottle of wine, drunk off my ass. Higher self came in and said, it's time to stop drinking. And I knew it was right. I knew that a vortex was open. So if you're getting those kinds of considerations, that means that a vortex is opening whereby you will be given power and strength to jump through that hoop, to jump through that portal, and under grace, be given wings in a way to stand in your full power and authority, to exercise that discipline and that will that will make it easier for you not to have that loop. Because all that is it's a pattern. It's a synaptic pattern. It's a pattern. Every time I got hurt, I went to eat. I went to eat. I went to eat. I didn't want to feel the pain. I didn't want to deal with what it was. So I ate and I ate. That became a pattern. Not feeling what the thing was, not standing up to the person and saying like, hey, you really hurt me, right? Throat chakra, like really activate that, like really stand in your power in your 3rd chakra and like own up to your feelings. Like it's a massive metaphysical cycle here. But we're all learning, right? We're all learning as we go. For some people, it's sex or porn, some people, there's no judgment. Again, we're just having a conversation, but where it's something that they feel that they need, right? They need to do this, have sex continually, just as a means to connect whatever dots for them or whatever that means for them. There's a story about this girl that I know through someone else, and she was with a guy, she was fully in love with him, and then she like caught him, masturbating with pornography on the computer, and he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I don't do it all the time, I swear, and all this stuff. So this became a part of the conversation of the relationship. And she didn't like it. She wasn't against it if it was just like once in a while. She was like, I guess that's what guys do. That's fine. But then she kept catching him, like constantly, like catching him, like at this, and she was beginning to feel like, okay, this is not cool, this is not the relationship, you're not the guy, that's not the guy that I want to be with, some dude who needs to constantly get off. Like, what about me? She's like, I'm your woman, I'm here, like, put that energy, that sexual energy with me, let's explore that and use that together. And so he's like, okay, no, 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 no. So they made this agreement, and they locked his computer in the under the steps. There was like this little closet. They locked the computer. He gave her the key, and he's like, I swear, I'm going to work this out. I'm going to just be a better man. I'm going to try my best. Da, 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 da. She came home from work that night. He had gotten an axe to tear down the door. So, I mean, it's just a story. It's just a story. But this is where our addictions go. This is like how far they will take us. There's another story with porn, and then I'm not going to go on the porn thing because it is what it is, right? Um, but there's another story where there's a guy who would lock himself up in his cabin for days on end and just, get off on himself with pornography, while completely dropping his girlfriend and sort of dropping off the map, ghosting and disappearing, and having these weekends to himself, and ultimately then realizing he started seeing a therapist, and he actually admitted it. He says, I realize now I'm fucking addicted to this thing, and I don't even know where it comes from. So he was exploring it. But he was also, the point of these stories with the porn thing is that these individuals eventually came to a point where they realized that it was not allowing them to have a mature, a conscious relationship with another person, and that there were some deep roots as to why this had to continue. So that aside, same thing as whether it's cigarettes, same things as whether it's the sugar, whether it's the cookies. I mean, I used to have to eat a whole tray of cookies. Like, I could not eat a whole tray of cookies. Again, my weight has gone up and down and up and down and up and down my whole life. And it's only in this last, maybe 5 or 7 years that I've learned a sweet spot of self-love, because that's really all it is. It's the sweet spot of self-love. And drugs and addiction, they keep us in holding patterns. They keep us in a loop of identifying with either memories or parts of ourselves that we've been before. And it's one thing if you're happy, if you're healthy, and you're in joy and you're in peace. If you're really in peace and you smoke pot every day, so be it. Then do you. Do you, but if you're watching this and that there's like a little voice that's saying like, hey, if you really want to reach those goals, if that affirmation that you've been telling yourself about, having greater aspirations, or the way that in your heart you see yourself living a much bigger, fuller part of yourself, your higher self might come in and say, what we need you to do is stop drinking now, in order for that frequency to be embodied in you, in order for you to be able to even raise your vibration to that level of self-love and allowing that is required for you to relax there, for it to not just be a vision, not just be an affirmation, but for you to actually begin to really embody that frequency. Okay. And it's like one of my friends just came back from vacation. We were all, it was Christmas, the New Year, he just came back. And we used to have this habit together of rolling sagerettes. I roll sagerettes when I smoke. And now I smoke much, much less, because one of my affirmations actually in this last few months has been, I live addiction free. And it just across the board, whether it's booze, whether it's pot, whether it's smokes, because I've done it all for years and years. And so that's one of my affirmations. I remember he came back, and I was expecting us, because that's what we do, is to have our little smoke together outside and have our cup of tea and catch up. And he's like, I don't smoke anymore. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you know how you hear higher self, like talking to you and telling you for weeks on end, like, it's time now, it's time now. And I was like, yeah, I totally get that. He's like, well, higher self had been talking to me for a long time and telling me, he's like, and I finally listened, and I feel completely free. Like, I don't have that. He doesn't have the addiction, like we were talking about at the very beginning, that when the vortex opens and your higher self knocks on the door of your heart, of your higher mind, and invites you in to develop a new practice in way of how your pattern is, of smoking, your pattern is of drinking, of whatever that is that there's an opportunity for you to be rewired, for you to raise your frequency by way of you changing the way you do things every day. Okay, so we're going to come back to all this, but I just want to read here. There's a, hey, Monica, blessings. You grew up with an alcoholic, drug addicted father. My path has been to make life choices opposite of his. Yeah, sister, I hear you. Hey, Lucky, blessings. Good to see you here, hon. Yeah, I hear you. My father was a heroin addict, and that's why my mother left him when I was little. Um, and you know, they say like genetically, if your parents have that addictive quality in them, that you know that you have that tendency. Now I could blame my father, who has now passed away, but I could blame him for the addictive qualities that I've experienced in my life. But we know with the new science and what Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton are studying and showing us in the sciences with epigenetics and the like, and Deepak Chopra even talks about it, is like, no, 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 no. We can change that programming, right? We can change it, but we have to be conscious of it. We're going from unconscious, right? Unconsciously, I was drinking wine every day, every day, every day, to numb the pain, not to deal with it, to, you know, to just be where I could be at with my life over those years. And I'm not gonna lie, it helped. It fucking helped. I'm being facetious here, but I'm being funny. But I mean, honestly, those were rough days. Those were rough days. And your girl was like, give me that glass of wine, you know, and it took I mean, ironically enough, right, it helped, quote. Yet there will be a point where you may be invited to look again, to make another choice about how you're living your life, about the perpetual patterns that you don't even think about that you're doing, putting 4 spoons of sugar in your coffee, maybe, right? And it's one thing if sugar's your friend and your body's like, I love sugar, I operate really good on sugar, but if you know it's causing you to break out, or it's causing hives or some weird thing, but you keep putting the sugar in, you're unconscious of the pattern, right? But then when we're like, oh, and we start to like put 1 and 1 or 2 and 2 together, and we're like, oh, every time I eat this thing, even though like I'm so addicted to that thing, but every time I eat it, I totally break out, or my stomach is like World War III, or, you know, I get this migraine. It's like, okay, well, we start to put the pieces of the puzzle together. We start to, connect the dots and honor what's happening in the body mind continuum. We start to honor the tendencies of the higher self that are constantly whispering into our ear, right? And through our hearts, and inviting us to see things different and see things again. So we can rewrite our genes. We can redetermine the onset of our life's path. So just because if you came up in a family and in a situation that was really rough like that, where there was heavy addiction, where there was violence, where there was drinking or whatnot, know that you do not need to continue, number one, feeling as a victim of that, but number two, you don't need to then relive that as a pattern in your life, in your relationships, in your home, with your partners and your children. But it takes consciousness. And what is consciousness? We know it's a level of awareness, right? And awareness is one thing, to be aware, but then the next level is developing our spiritual will. And spiritual will is a muscle. It's a muscle. So if you do feel, though, a little bit of a victim of like, well, my whole, line of my whole family, they've all been alcoholics. And now I think I have this, now I realize where I've been drinking, like more than just maybe as a social thing, where you realize you're drinking as an emotional, crutch sort of a thing. Be gentle on yourself, but know that you can change that if you're guided. And especially if that higher self, your higher mind, your higher heart is in there saying like, it's time. Gather your will if you're ready to jump through the vortex. Like I remember I made a deal with higher self when it came in and it told me to stop drinking wine. I had half a bottle left, and I had like a glass or a half a glass in my glass. And now higher self didn't say stop drinking alcohol. It said stop drinking wine, because there was this energy blueprint that I had created over those 3 years of drinking every day to drown my sorrows, that was this wino lady. I'm talking about me, my vision of me, that just had this wine, whether it was white, it was a white rosé or red thing. And it was time to lay her down, to let her go. That's the God phone. Just one moment. Hey, is it you? It's always God on this phone. God says hi. Blessings, dear God. I will. I will. Thank you for reminding me. Oh, God is just inviting us to remember that we can redefine our identity of self, that we can redefine our patterns of self under grace, that love is the absolute truth, and God is love. God is the feeling realization of love. And we get to experience that together. It's so beautiful. Thank you, dear God. Okay, so maybe not. It's okay. It depends. Good stuff. Okay, blessings. God says, see you later. Always. Always. Okay, blessings. Always. ALLWAYS. So yes, it's a big one. It's a big one. We're going to do a meditation in a little while at the end, where we're going to go through our timelines. We're going to go through the timelines of our addiction. So whatever your addiction is for you, and it's really about allowing love to be the quantum organizer that it is, and to invite love consciously using your spiritual will, which is choosing love over fear, right? Choosing those new patterns, those new words, those new thoughts, those new actions that really are new, but that anchor you in the now where love resides, that you can be recreated and redesigned on a deep, beautiful level, that the geometry of you becomes sacred, that you become that sacred geometry from within, that you tap the 0 point in the tiny space of your heart and weave that fabric, create the correct conditions within you for that new version, that now version of you to begin showing up. So for me, I knew that this version of me, this lady, this drunk, buzzed, continually just drinking wine lady with the glass of wine, I was like the lady. I was her. I didn't want to be her anymore. And I knew that I had these goals and aspirations. And I know, it's one thing, right? They say, don't, it's one thing to make plans because there's God's plan. But, we have these aspirations. We have these visions that are true in our heart, things that we see for ourselves. Yet as long as perhaps there's certain addictions and patterns that continue to identify us, they can hold us at bay from really just surrendering and freeing up our energy so that that frequency again can be shifted. I'm going to share that I'm so excited to be doing a full weekend presentation at the Conscious Life Expo at the LAX Hilton in Los Angeles, February 7th through February 9th. And I will be giving a free lecture on grid mind science. And thank you everyone at Instagram and all over who follows grid mind science. And just so you know, here at YouTube and at Grid Mind Science on Insta, every Tuesday night, I do a guided meditation. And the last several weeks, we've been doing the Bija meditation. Boz, blessings, brother. I don't know if you just hopped on, but if this resonates, I invite you to go back and check out the whole video because we've covered so much juiciness. But I do offer a weekly meditation there at Grid Mind Science, and we've been doing through the Bija mantra, chanting those chakras, the mantras for the chakras, and talking a little bit about the energy body. So please, if you're in LA and you're at the Conscious Life Expo, hang out, come to my booth, number 453 at the International Ballroom, surf the grid with me. Grid Mind Science is all about the science of your multidimensional healing and ascension. It's about learning self-mastery through understanding a system that is the grid matrix of collective consciousness. So again, if that's something that tickles you, join me at Grid Mind Science on Instagram. Come to my free lecture, and I look forward to sharing more on that. But the point of why I'm saying that is not only just to share that, but that coming into that, what I knew, right, is it's been a stretch for me. That's been an aspiration and something that I've seen in my heart that is the next step of sharing what I share on metaphysics, on these teachings that I so love and that have really served my life. And but there was a point then, right, as I was coming up to it, I drink very rarely now, but I still do enjoy a drink. And with all my Irish roots, you know it. During Christmas with the Irish, it's all about the Irish whiskey coffees for sure. Papa Duff, my stepfather, makes the best, and we have more than one or two. But in terms of just really getting the frequency shifting and getting ready, I remember I smoked like my last puff of weed. I think it was like the night after Christmas night, right? With the cousins and everything, and we're having a puff, and I remember Spirit saying, "And that's going to be it for you." And I was like, "For now, forever, for what?" And they're like, "Just like that." And I was like there was no determining, like me trying to figure it out. Is this going to be forever, for now, for not? And I just knew in that moment that that was about receiving the grace, the word from higher self, that I would be given that grace. And then even when New Year's Eve came around, I was in bed by 10. I didn't puff, and that would have been like a night to be puffing for me and to have a drink and everything. But, I didn't. And what I'm getting to, the point of this, is that now that I've been fasting from it since then, like that last week in December through now, but it's all because of this presentation that I'm going to be facilitating in this weekend, where I'm coming in on this niche as the new kid on the block. I'm going to be in the realms of like the Greg Bradens, the Marianne Williamsons, the Bruce Liptons, the Lynn McTaggarts, the Nassim Harameins. My energy body, my light body's like, girl, you have to be so freaking clear. You cannot be any fuzzy foo-foo at all. And I get it. And not only just for me, in my own research and study, to like get this science and this stuff that is still new to me, right, on so many levels, to connect the dots so I can share it with the audience. But it gives me this sharpness and this clarity. And what's happened is, since I've put the weed down in this last 5 weeks, I guess it's been so far, it's been raising of the frequency of the next level. And I get it. I get it now. This is not just, it's not, yes, it's about redefining the patterns, redefining our identity, and creating new patterns of health and healing and balance, right? With these aspects of self that we just do as a part of our lives, whether it's the drugs, whether it's the drink, the sex, the whatever it is. But by fasting from that, it has allowed my vibration to shift in such a profound way that I know it's specifically because I listened when higher self said no more pot. And I don't think it's no more pot forever, but it's just like no more pot. And if it's forever, you just be cool with that. Okay, girl, like higher self was like, mm-hmm. And like, I just had to be like for right now, yes, because I knew as well that I want to be sharp. I want to be on. I want to be 110 percentage voltages. I want to be on it. And what I'm experiencing is that this is what's happening. The frequency is shifting. This ability to understand things that I haven't understood before, both scientifically, metaphysically, spiritually, on those finer, more subtle levels, and even about myself, which is really the alchemist's gold, is priceless. And so if your higher self, again, nudges you to take a fast, to take a break, to see things differently, to exercise your spiritual will in the way of creating new blueprints, new neurosynaptic, or a new portfolio of self, and you feel guided, like there will be strength for you. I can't guarantee, but I can almost promise you that you will be given wings. You will be given a grace where that I remember I used to have the taste for wine, like an addict. Like I would be like, every day I'd be going to the little, if I was broke, I'd go to those little Walgreens and get those little bottles for $1.49 or whatever, if I had to scrape pennies together, because I had that taste on my mouth and I needed it. It was like that. That next day when I honored that and higher self came and I let the addiction go, I let it go. that needing, that wanting, that thing in my cells, in my body, it was gone. There was a grace. And the grace is for us if we shall, honor it. And if it's not time, and I know that grace, it'll loop around, or that invitation, to maybe lay that addiction down, will loop around, it'll loop around. And there's no wrong time, because when you feel ready, when you're ready for you in earnest, that's when it's going to be the most powerful and the most potent for you. But what I can say as well is that there is a level of your ascension that is related to the patterns, right, that we continue and that we carry on. I want to just look here at the comments a little bit. Oh, blessings, I am. Let me see. Namaste. You'll be in the presence of yourself. Yes, yes. Hey, okay, welcome everyone. I just wanted to see what you wrote there, boss. I was just curious. Yes, you will be in the presence of yourself, uninhibited by by other fractals of self, and the fractals are freaking cool. One of my old counterparts used to say, man, as she smoked weed like it was like no tomorrow. And well, we both did back in the day. But I remember she'd say, man, smoking weed is like instant enlightenment. She's like, as soon as I puff, it's like all the things come together, all the mysteries of the world, everything click in. And I get it, absolutely. Perhaps you felt that too. I know for years, and I've laid it down now because my creative artistic sort of realm has gone in a different direction. But for years I was a singer and a songwriter. And that was the gift, was to have that little nugget of hash or that little bit of puff, and to have the guitar and the 4-track recorder and my little instruments, and to just like have space in my room and like enter the gateway of creativity is what I would call it, with the puff. And just channel these amazing songs that I have, that I'm like, I don't even know how I played that stuff. But that was the divine spirit coming through. So there's a time and there's a place. And that's also what another brother told me once. When I was back at a phase when I was smoking more often. And I says, yeah, you can come over, we can have a puff, we can do, how you do when you puff, right? And that's your thing. And he looked at me with his super clear self, and he says, well, we'll see, because there's a time and space for everything. And I thought, whoa. And he kind of blew my mind, because I was just into the puffery, which is fine. But his clarity sort of like darted through and offered me a different way to see things. Okay. So there is, if you know that you are called to raise your vibration, if you know that you have been called to lay down, whether it's coffee, and that's another thing that just the other day, the guides came in and they told me like, no more caffeine. And this really fucking freaked me out. So let me know if you've had this experience as well, because I'm like, okay, it's one thing the pot, it's one thing the wine, sure, good. But I'm like, coffee, come on, that's like, come on. Nothing like a good cup of coffee. But the guides were like, it's actually, and when they told me, I knew they were telling the truth, because I could hear my own self over the past weeks. When I'd have my morning cup of coffee, it was agitating me. When your frequency's coming up, you will be guided to disband certain things. Now, who knows? I don't know if it's going to mean forever, or for a fasting for a period of time while your energy body resets itself on a new higher frequency. And then you may be guided to bring things in, in more moderation, or the organic version, or the decaf, or whatever it might be. But what happened for me is that I could feel this agitation, and when I would drink my coffee in the morning, I would just get this disgusting frenetic energy through my body and my energy body. And it would take about 3 to 4 hours to run through. And it was almost like, oh, when it was done, I'd be like, thank God. But I ignored it. I didn't want to meditate about it or ask about it, because I love my coffee so much. And I was like, I wasn't going to go there, because I was like, okay, I don't know, for me, it's like, okay, Holy Spirit, you've taken like everything else away. You're not going to take my coffee away. We get real 3D about it. Yet the reality was, when I sat and I finally was open enough to hear, higher self was like, look, kid, you feel like crap when you're drinking coffee in the morning. Just stop. You have to stop now. If you want, your energy is raising, your frequency is expanding. And what's happening is actually that coffee, the way that you're feeling, that's reflecting, it's actually inhibiting. It's inhibiting It creates the illusion of like ching, 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 the caffeine, the go, that I can do it all, whatever. But it's actually it's making your aura shrink. It's holding it. It's inhibiting it from boo, from being big, from expanding, from being as full of light as it can. And when I got that, for me, that's my personal message from higher self. I was like, oh shit. And it really resonated. And so I went off the coffee, and I had the massive migraine and all that. And then they were like, okay, you can do decaf. And I was like, but I was like, I will do decaf. So I have a can of decaf in there now that I'm with. But I feel so much better. I feel the difference. So let me read. There's a few comments. Good to know your patterns if you ever wish to fully change. Yes, that's so true. And we are all changing anyhow. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Lucky says here on YouTube, you will realize you can still bring that creative space back after addictions end. It can be reignited in a healthy space, of course. Yes, beautiful. There's so much wisdom here in this community. You see, it's like we know. It's like we know, and it's one thing to know it and to say it, yet it's another thing, right? When we are invited, now it's like, now walk the talk. And that's what it's about. That's the ascension. When we create the correct conditions for those set points to be realigned in us, okay? Because we know this. We know these things about us, and we're discovering more and more this energetic continuum of who we are and how we abide here in this planet. And because it's just such a continual shift of energy here on the planet. And if you are being called in any way to be a holder of light, a light worker, whether you do Reiki or you're in your prayers, or you light candles for, the little animals in the Amazon or in Australia, or whatever you do, if you're called in any way to participate towards holding space for that which is outside of you, seemingly, because it's all within, that is a crucial set point that in fact beckons us to go within and fine tune where we are at with our daily practices, because we know all this stuff is a lifestyle, right? Smoking pot every day is a lifestyle. Recognize the patterns of addiction, though, right? Like for me, back in the day, smoking pot was always, I would have to have tobacco after the pot, and then I would always have the munchie, right? So there were these three things. But when you take the pot away, I don't have such the craving for the tobacco, and I don't even think about munchies. It's like a whole string, right? It's a whole grid of effects. And so whatever it is now, and I've known, and I've actually had students of mine in Reiki that have spent years and years dealing with whether it's crystal meth addiction or cocaine addiction. And they have been Reiki masters, working on mastering their path within themselves, because again, it's us. It's us we're healing, and that's how the world is healed, by each little fractal, each little part of us working on ourselves. And it's all about letting the love in. And we'll talk a little bit about that on Tuesday night. Again, if you just joined, every Tuesday night at my Insta page, Grid Mind Science, I do a guided meditation. And for now, we're working with the chakras and the bija mantras. And every week I'm talking a little bit more about the energy body and little aspects. And last week we talked about the endocrine system. And this week we'll get into the tar body a bit, because this is a thing with addiction. The tar body is the toxic twin. It is the toxic twin of your light body. And so it holds all of the patterns and the conditions and the memory of everything that has ever caused us pain or trauma, all the unprocessed, undigested, unhealed memory within us is held in this toxic twin of the light body, that is the tar body. And when our addictions are allowed to become out of balance in a way that your own will, your own power and will can't say no. Like me, I would go driving around and scraping pennies to get that little bottle of wine, because the addict in me, the tar body in me, was like, I need this, And there then when I released it, there was the power for me. I mean, at that point I didn't even want it. I didn't even get that craving, but I did not have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to drink. Like that wasn't even a part of the equation. It was just a constant surrendering. And I remember saying to one of my girlfriends, like who we've been friends for 20 years, and our thing used to be like, let's get together and smoke some weed and whoop whoop, and that's cool. It is cool because we had fun. Yet I remember we both were going through cycles with marijuana. We both started sitting with ayahuasca, the medicine. I want to make sure we're still in time. Okay. Because I want to tell you a little story about the medicine and my addiction with marijuana before we get into our meditation. But with this sister, I remember we would always have our little puff and our little hangout. And then we went to the point where we stopped. We were both guided like on a parallel track of like releasing that daily smoking, like releasing that like waking and baking, just the different fractals, the different aspects of the pattern and how it might work for you. And we were sitting very sober one night and just having the real talk. And I was like, you know what? I was her bitch. And she's like, me too. Like we just like, and then I used to joke with another friend of mine who that's all we used to do was puff, puff, puff. He would say that he was so much its bitch that it would wake him up in the middle of the night to just have a puff and go back to sleep. Okay. So, and I know I'm using slang terms here, but if you dig, you get it. And this is what addiction does, is it just becomes such an ingrained part of us that we kind of joke about it and we kind of laugh about it. And that's fine if you're happy and you're cool and you're at peace, right? Yet if it's time for change, and that knock on the door again from higher self light body is saying like, hey, it's time to raise that frequency. Come on, and lay that down. We're going to help you. We're going to hold space for you. You got this. Because there's another world outside of these patterns and the way you've been living. The very first time I sat with ayahuasca was in 2012. And I remember I was very, very guided to go specifically to deal with my addiction to marijuana. And as it was, the gods opened the way and I went. And because with medicine and I have other videos talking a little bit about the medicine, right? But you never force it. You never force that. When she's ready for you and you're ready for her to sit with that divine reverent ceremony, the way will come under grace, right? You never force. So the way opened and I sat. And I remember my whole intention when I was, taking the medicine and sitting was to release those patterns. And I was like ready to puke. I was like, let's get this out. I want to get this out because I was her bitch. And I was like, and I know there's more to life than me just feeling like a slave to this drug. And so drinking, I get guided to go back to the shaman. The medicine's guiding me for another cup. She gives me another cup. I sit. And then here it comes. The nausea, the feeling like, oh shit, we're gonna hurl, we're gonna go. And then higher self came in and said, okay, you want to get rid of this addiction to marijuana? Go and drink another cup. And my ego got terrified because then I was like, and then all of a sudden I didn't want to puke. Then all of a sudden I was like, but then I'm going to definitely puke because I felt like that borderline, like nausea, like here it comes, I'm going to hurl. And higher self is like, go get another. If you really are serious and you want to let this go, and this is the whole reason why you flew to New York and you're sitting here with this group, go take that cup. And I was like, fuck. Because my ego was like, I don't want to puke in front of people. And of course, I had to get over that. And so I was like, of course. Okay. So I go to the shaman. I tell her my little story about addiction with the pot. And I said, and it's, higher self is guiding me now to ask for the third cup and da-da-da. And she scanned me. She looked me up and down. And she gave me the third cup. I bless it, drink it. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. I go back over to my space, like with my trash bag, like ready to puke. And I sat. And what happened? But this like divine grace came over me. And all of a sudden, the need to puke completely disappeared. And I tuned in and I was like, higher self, I thought we were going to like puke this shit out. I thought we were going to like get this out once and for all. And then the medicine, the grandmother came in and she said, your willingness, just your sheer willingness to honor the guidance of your higher self and to take that third cup, knowing that you were going to have to release. Just that in itself was enough to untangle the patterning to the next degree of your healing with the herb. And I was like, whoa. And anyone who sat with the medicine, you know, right? When you get a message, it's like, whoa. And then she said, it is not your path not to smoke, but it is your path to learn how to smoke with absolute reverence and respect for the divine herb as you are guided. And I was like, whoa, again. So it's like, it's almost this thing where I almost would have been let off the hook had I puked it all out and whatever. And like, then I'm done with that. But she's like, no, no, no. The medicine's like, no, you're not never going to smoke again. You know, you've untangled enough so you're not going to be bound in that like a slave in the way that you felt before. We've loosened that now. Your willingness has loosened that. But you're going to learn a whole new reverence for this sacred herb that you have not known before. So I just wanted to share that because it was so powerful. Let's see. Good to know your patterns if you ever wish to fully change. Yes, blessings. Hey, intuitive, spirit life, and digital watcher. All right. If you just hopped on, please, if this resonates with you, go back to the beginning because we covered so much juicy stuff. Try chicory coffee. I know. Thank you. Do you know what, love? I was at Whole Foods yesterday because I figured that's where I'm going to find chicory. They didn't have it. They didn't have it. So, but I'm on it. I'm on it. No, I know because I used to drink that stuff at a certain point. And it's good. It gives you that alternative, that nice warm hot brew. All right, my friends. So let's sit in for a little meditation. Go ahead and get comfy. Change your position. Sit nice and tall. Take a deep breath in and out. We're going to enter the rose quartz crystalline cave together. And it is in this interdimensional rose quartz crystalline cave where we will do our work. Now take a full deep breath in through the nose. And a full breath out. And again, a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. And one more. Now drop your awareness into the tiny space of your heart. Imagine there's a tiny pinpoint. And you can squeeze in through that pinpoint. And beyond that space is the 0 point field. The space of love and only love. And feel your energy just fully expanding beyond your body. You are no longer confined to the physicality of your being. And take a breath and let yourself relax into this external, eternal presence of your I am self. And feel how it's connected to the I am that we all share together. And from this beautiful spaciousness, imagine yourself an orb of light. And we're going to travel as this orb of light, individually and collectively. I'm going to go and explore these variables of timelines of self. So as this little orb of light that you are here, maybe you know in your mind's eye already, or you can ask your higher self, what aspect of addiction are you ready to work on right now? And let it come up. Put that word, that grid, that energy into your orb. Whether it's a drug, a foodstuff, a practice. And we're going to travel with this orb. I'm going to travel to the timeline of you being you now as you live with that addiction, with that pattern. And just as your higher self, as your I am presence, as this beautiful orb of light, just imagine you can buzz your way through to the timeline of you in pattern with that addiction, and just observe how you live your day and how that addiction, how that pattern is a part of your life. And without judging yourself, just watch and see how that addiction weaves itself in and out, how it determines certain pathways of how you make choices in your life, where you go, what you do, who you spend time with, how it affects your energy, your physical energy, your metaphysical energy, and just gathering information here without judgment. Just allow that awareness to be with you, and then gently drawing away from this timeline. We're going to do some quantum jumping. And as your I am self presence, as your higher self, you're going to quantum jump and hop skip beyond time and space to the timeline of you where you are free of that addiction. You're free of those patterns, and now beam in as that little orb of light, beam in like a fly on the wall, and look at yourself. Are you living in the same place? Are you doing the same work? Do you look the same? Is your hair, your clothes different? Watch yourself as if you can fast forward through a day in your life in this other dimension of self, addiction free, and watch how you do what you do, the choices you make, and watch the alternatives, the choices where you make them, where you would have made them towards the addiction in the other timeline, and just observe. And with the information gathered now, formulate yourself into an energy body being and see yourself in this timeline, recognize you and welcome you in. And ask them now what their secret is. What is their guidance to help you be addiction free at this time? And listen to what they say. Are they showing you something? Take whatever they're giving you and just absorb it and say thank you. Thank you, thank you. And very gently now, zooming back out from this form into an orb of light, back into this spacious, eternal expansion where we are all connected. Taking a breath, and that little orb just expanding into that nothingness, moving back in through that tiny space of the heart and filling up your whole body now. The physical body where you are now, present and aware, taking a breath in and a breath out. And two more deep breaths. And one more. Beautiful. We'll slowly open the eyes and bring awareness back to the space. Blessings, dear community. So powerful. It always is so powerful to join with you. I pray that everything I share truly serves your path of spiritual growth and sovereignty. Thank you, all the new subscribers at YouTube and everyone for following at the Instagram, my main page, and at Grid Mind Science. And again, I'm so excited to be speaking at the Conscious Life Expo at the LAX Hilton, February 9th in Los Angeles. You can catch me there all weekend at my booth, Grid Mind Science. I look forward to sharing divine practices of metaphysics and multidimensional mastery and ascension. If you are into this vibe and what I share, go to my website, tuesdaymaythomas.com, and sign up on the first page for my monthly love letter. I send out a little blog and some little treats for my subscribers. Enjoy a very, very blessed day, everyone. And thank you again for all the love, for your contributions, for your comments, for the waves. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Sending you so much love and so much light. And you got this. Even just being here today is helping to shape shift and repattern any addictions in your life for the highest good. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Blessings, everyone.